Wisakadjak and his Scabs, written and narrated by Victor Epp. Whenever he wasn't thinking about anything else, Wisakadjak always thought about food. In fact, even if he was thinking about something else, he was still thinking about food. And usually the something else he was thinking about was how to get food from somebody else instead of finding his own. In fact, he could even think about the somebody else he wanted to get food from at the same time he was thinking about how to get it, without ever stopping his thoughts about food and how good it would taste once he got it. The last thing Wisakadjak ever wanted to think about was having to go get food for himself. It spoiled his appetite. Too much work, he thought to himself, and put it off so he could concentrate on whom he could trick into giving him a free meal. But there were times when he could go for days on end without meeting anyone, and his stomach had no patience when it came to food. So he was forced into thinking about it after all. It usually put him in a bad mood. One day, Wisakadjak's stomach ordered him to go out and hunt for food. He shuddered at the thought of going out into the forest, hunting and butchering his own game, and then having to roast it himself on top of all that. It just didn't seem right. But the growling and complaining of his stomach was driving him crazy, so he set out with his bow and a quiver of arrows. Before long, he found himself in a clearing in the woods, staring at a big stag nearby. Slowly, quietly, he armed and drew his bow. He was just about to release the arrow when his bum made a very loud fart. Wisakadjak's bow hand jerked upward from the shock, and the arrow stuck in a tree, well above where the stag had been an instant before. He retrieved the arrow from the tree and walked on, muttering to himself as he went. Further down the trail, Wisakadjak, still muttering to himself, saw another, even larger stag just off to his right. He couldn't believe his luck. This time he wouldn't miss. "Be quiet," he hissed at his bum while he drew his bowstring again. His bum exploded. Too late, the arrow missed its mark. Again. Wisakadjak was getting upset. In fact, he was getting downright angry. Every time he had some game in his sights, his bum would roar. This kept on the whole day, no matter what he did. He would aim at some game and finally, he'd had enough. It was time to teach his bum a lesson. So Wisakadjak built a roaring fire. He looked around until he found a big rock and threw it into the blaze. When it got good and hot, he sat on the rock. That would teach his bum to be quiet. Wisakadjak had been sitting there about a minute when he smelled something burning. Suddenly, he jumped up. "Ee-yi!" he yelled. "That hurts!" He ran as fast as he could to the nearby stream and sat in it to cool off. Then he went on his way, thinking about food, of course. While the warm summer breeze was drying him, great scabs formed on his burned bum. As he walked, They fell off and landed on the trail. Wisakadjak didn't even notice. He was too busy thinking about food. Finally, he was on his way back the way he had come and saw the scabs lying on the trail. "Hey," he said, "that looks like grandmother's dried meat, and I sure am hungry." He picked up the scabs and ate them. Some of the animals that had been watching started laughing so loudly that they startled Wisakadjak. "What are you laughing at?" he shouted. "Oh, silly Wisakadjak," they said. "You just ate the scabs from your own bum." For once, Wisakadjak was not thinking about food, or where to get it, or even who to steal it from. He was so embarrassed he just ran off.